Well, Africa is a very diverse continent. There are 50 plus countries in Africa, and they all have very different dynamics. They have a different history. There are different phases in their own development. So they're very different places. And if we make the mistake of assuming that Africa is a single entity, I think that is a serious mistake. There's a shortage of information generally. It's very dispersed. And I think one of the things that we need to do is to start gathering that information about each country in Africa and establishing, what is the human capital and what is the human capital potential in each country in Africa. Because it's only when we do that that we can really build the institutions that are going to develop that potential and build the skills that a particular country requires. I think if you look at, for example, the Asian tigers in their day as they grew, they linked their skills development very closely with their industrial development and the economic development. So if African countries are going to move from commodity kinds of economies through to service economies and value-added economies, then the building of skills has to be parallel with that. And we need, I think there's probably a lack of true strategy in many African countries as to how those skills are going to be built. I mean, just if you look at universities, for example, UCT is, I think, on the ranking that I saw, about 300 global ranking. The next one is Makerere, I think is in Uganda, and that was 1300 in the rankings. So we've got to build the institutional capacity in Africa to be able to build the skills that Africa needs for the economies. Well, I think the key thing is to recognize that the talent that is there, and there's really good talent there. Let's not avoid that. There's huge talent there. What companies need to do is realize that they are competing against the global greats, the Unilevers, the Standard Banks, the Nestle's, the consulting companies. So the talent that is there is very much in demand. My view would be that companies going into other African countries need to look at building talent and capacity. The potential is there. There are people there with a potential, but they perhaps haven't had access to the colleges, universities, skills development opportunities. And I think one of the things that will enhance an organization's reputation considerably is if they add value to the talent pool in a particular country. That will really contribute to, it'll have reputational benefits to an organization. Well, clearly a company, when they move into a different country, it's almost certain that they're going to have people from that company because they know the company, they know what they do, they know what works, but they need to partner with talent from that particular country, that community, that market, who know the market, who know the people, who know what works and what doesn't work. Too often South Africans are seen as very arrogant because we move into African countries and we think we know everything because it worked here. To pick up what you did here because it worked and just put it down somewhere else is going to be a very expensive lesson. So I think one needs to get the balance right. But the ultimate aim is to build the capacity in the new country, and then to, as most of the big global companies do, is to move people around so that people from there have opportunities elsewhere to get exposure to other markets, and people from other markets get the opportunity to have exposure there. So I think that moving around is very important.